for a guy. They want to kind of create a new Bruce Lee. And then they said, well, should we bring the girls? And he's like, yeah. And they called Ernie because he knew that everybody on the team was really, really good. And we all went down and did our thing. And Corey Yoon, who was looking for it, said, I want the girl. And he signed me up. So technically, that might not have ever happened if I wasn't training on the West Coast demonstration team.
Did you ever think that it would lead to, like, film work, or did you just want to be, like, a martial artist, like an instructor, seminars and stuff like that?
Well, at that time, all I was really concerned about is I was competing, and my goal was to be number one, undefeated for 5 years. So, I mean, I would compete up to 20 times a year or more, actually, and I've been undefeated. So that's where my focus was, is because I figured it was a title that nobody really could beat. Now, some people say, oh, I'm 7 times champion, and they've only won once, like, or 7 times, you know, but this was like competing in over, you know, I would say definitely over 100 tournaments in 5 years and being undefeated. So, I would like go to China to study. I would go to Taiwan. You know, all I did is just train because that was my goal. So I wasn't thinking beyond my competition. And this happened when I was like on my 4th year of being number one. So I still had 1 more year to go. But that was a goal I always put for myself is, you know, and then every time I'd win, I would just even train harder because everybody was trying to beat me, because it would have been big news if Cynthia Rothrock would have been beat forms, you know. So it just fired my fuel just to keep training and get better and better and, you know, put in new and harder. I wasn't even thinking about doing movies. That just kind of fell in my lap. I was only, you know, at that time focused 100% on competition.
Now, you even competed. Are you a 4 or 5 times like grand champion, like men and women forms champion?
You know, back in that day, I don't remember how many times I received the grand champion. The grand champion was all firsts in every division, so it was competing. I was the only woman competing for it, and I think I might have won like just 3 times. It always went to a guy. But then after I retired from competition, then like a few years after that, they started having a women's grand champion, because when I competed in weapons, I was number one. In 1982, yeah, I was a youngster, and I was number one, and I had to compete in the men's division all the time. So it's the first time a woman was dominant for the whole year in a men's division.
I guess to go back a second, because I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this, or if not, I've never read it. How did you get involved in martial arts?
My friends' parents were studying Tung Sudo. They were at the Scranton Karate School, and they also owned a health club. And then they would be practicing, you know, their movements on Sunday because it was closed, and we'd be like doing like flips and cartwheels and all this kind of stuff in the empty room while they were cleaning and then practicing. And I saw them, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. I think I might like to try that. So I told my mom, I said, I want to take karate lessons. And she's like, what is that? And I said, learning how to defend yourself with your hands and feet. So my mom was used to me. I was kind of, and still am, an out-of-the-box kind of person. Anything that was different or unique, that's what I wanted to do. And since nobody really knew back then, we're looking, we're thinking like the late 70s, nobody really, it wasn't quite popular back then. It was hard to find a school. So, so that, I did it. I started. I didn't like it, actually. I wanted to quit because I was the only girl in the class. Well, there was one other girl, but after a while, I thought she was a guy. And I just, I couldn't see myself shouting. I was getting blisters on my feet. This one person kicked me in the head on the second class because they wanted me to spar. I had no idea what sparring was. It almost knocked me out. Someone told me to break a board, like a half a board, and I hit it with the wrong part of my toe and broke my toe. And I was like, oh, this isn't for me. And then my mom was like, well, because I have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So reluctantly, I would go. I was young. I was a young kid. And one day my teacher was explaining that quitters are losers. And if you don't practice, that's why you're not good. And you have a bad attitude. And I thought he was like focusing this conversation just to me because I had all of that. So I just decided to change my attitude, try to practice. And then when I started practicing, I started getting good. I started getting those movements down that I could never get. And I started liking it. And after training 5.5 months, I entered a competition. And at that time, it was women. It didn't matter what rank you were. It was white belts to grandmaster. It was whatever belt you were, you had to compete in forms. And I took second place, and black belt took first, black belt took third. And at that time, I thought, wow, if I've only been training 5.5 months and I beat women black belts, if I practice really hard, I could be the best in this sport. So then that took my training right from that 5.5 months of just starting into a whole new level.
You know, ironically, my wife because I still study martial arts. My son studies martial arts. My wife, she's older. She just, for the first time in her life, wanted to start studying. So she is actually the only girl in our Kenpo class now when we go to class. So she, I've shown her pretty much all of your films. And she always said she wanted to be able to fight like you. So I think you kind of helped inspire her there a little bit.
People say that, either, saw me or watched a movie and said, you're the reason why I started martial arts, or you inspire me that if you could do so well, that I could do better than what I'm doing. So, yeah, I love hearing that.
She's a huge fan of Sworn to Justice, and I call it Above the Law. I think it's also called Righting Wrongs, I believe.
Yeah,
right. Those are her two favorites.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're two of my favorites, too.
You're, I always felt sorry for you. I'm a huge fan of Millionaire's Express, or Shanghai Express, whichever you'd like to call it. And
right.
And Sammo Hung is one of the reasons I started studying martial arts, because I'm a bigger guy, too. And I'm seeing this big guy just do flips, and just he's so amazing. And when you and him had the fight kind of toward the end when you're in the town, I mean, I know that they pad you up in those films, but my God, was he even pulling? I felt so bad for you, even as a kid. It was like, my God, he is really nailing her with some of these shots.
Oh, yeah, he was hitting me hard. But that was my second movie. And I was used to getting hit hard, because the first movie was Yes, Madam, and that was 7.5 months of shooting. So I was used to getting hit hard, and I was used to hitting hard, and I knew that's just how they did it. And you just had to, if you wanted to do movies in Hong Kong at that time, you just had to suck it up and take it.
Yes, Madam, I saw, and that is the one movie I don't own because it's next to impossible to find anymore. It went out of print. So if you have any pull on getting that re-released, I would appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know, because, since then it's changed into so many rights, like Golden Harvest sold their library to this people, and then these people sold it. So it's really kind of hard to find some who really has them now.
Dragon Dynasty, I know, put out Above the Law. They were doing a really nice job with some of their releases. They also did your Millionaire's Express. They did really nice jobs. Then they just kind of stopped putting out films.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of your films that I own on disc, I had to buy a vast majority of them from like the UK or Germany to get like really nice copies of.
Oh, yeah, right. My friend distributes. He's still distributing. He just took, I think, 4 or 5 of my movies and he's redistributing again to Germany. And it's interesting because, those films, they're like, 30 years old. And they still hold up today because the fight scenes were so good, and they weren't real. Everything was real. There wasn't any special effects at all in the fights.
And I think that's why I really loved, like, you, Don the Dragon, Richard Norton, Jala Merhai, Billy Blanks, all these films, because I've always said I want to see a real martial artist doing martial arts. The story is secondary to me, as opposed to going to see the big budget, like, say, nothing against anyone, like, say, a Van Damme or something like that.
Right.
The martial arts aren't, it might be a big budget movie with the big effects, but the martial arts scenes are just, they're not what I want to see. I like that Hong Kong real style of martial arts. That's why I was always drawn to your films.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
And I remember it was so funny because I was, if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I wish you'd tell me because I've been saying it this way for about 40 years. Is it Yoon Biao?
Yoon Bu.
Yoon Biao, okay.
Yeah, Yoon Bu.
I liked him. When Dragons Forever came out, I was like, wow, that was the one that I really noticed him in, like their last one. And so when Above the Law came out, I was like, all right, this is my man's breakthrough movie. And then I watched you and Karen Shepard, and I was like, okay, I'm watching a Cynthia Rothrock movie. Who the hell is Yoon Biao anymore? You know, like that was almost like such a perfect showcase for what you could do.
Oh yeah, and you know, I had on that movie, I blew out my knee. I blew out my anterior cruciate ligament. So when I went to the set, I couldn't even like walk, and I had to do all the fight scenes on my left leg. I had to reverse everything. So you know how being a martial artist, you know, you have your dominant leg. Mm-hmm. Well, and I thought, oh, it's going to look like crap because everything is like I'm kicking on my left leg. I'm doing all this stuff on my left leg. But when I saw the film, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that looked pretty good. So that's kind of a little inside information that, that I did my anterior cruciate ligament was blown out. And actually, I never got it fixed to this day.
You and Karen Shepard, your fight was so amazing. Were you guys like rivals? Because, I mean, there were parts in there, it looked like you were really trying to kill each other.
You know what? We were, because Karen was number one when I came onto the scene, and I overtook the number one spot from her. So I don't think she was like a fan of mine, but actually, we became friends. Like during that movie, she had a problem like with something and got upset and walked off, and I went and talked to her, and actually we kind of bonded then, and we kind of became friends, you know. So so now today we are friends. There's no rivalry today.
I always thought it was kind of cool because, like, when you said Germany, I had just ordered the big German leather-bound set of the martial law films because I like, you know, your Martial Law 2, and then the unofficial sequel, Mission of Justice, had Karen Shepard in it. So I always thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, well, actually, you know, they were asking me if I knew a woman that could do the steel whip, you know, mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, you know, I said, Karen can do it. I said, you know, we're not really that friends. And they said, oh, would you rather her or this other person do it? And I said, well, I think she would do it better. So, you know, yeah, you could give her that part.
I hurt myself many times learning the steel whip when I was a teenager. So that's a very hard one to pick up on.
Yeah, and I remember, I think like when we were doing the one scene, you know, I said, just don't kick my knee because I hurt my knee, and she kicked my knee.
No.
And then I don't know if she did it. She probably didn't do it intentionally, but you know, I got hit and it hurt. And then I started fighting really hard. And Corey, you and I remember, he said, Cynthia, stop fighting so hard. She won't come back. I was like, okay. But we actually, at the end of that movie, we became friends.
Oh, it's a great movie. I mean, that fight, I mean, the fight's iconic now. I mean, anytime you look up like best martial arts fights or anything, that always comes up in anyone's playlist.
Oh yeah, it's an awesome scene. Yeah. Definitely that one. Yeah, I mean, you know, you could take mostly any of those Hong Kong films and take any of the fight scenes, and they're you know, even to this day, I still think they're brilliant choreography.
Yeah, we just watched. I just showed my wife and son. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. The one with Jackie Chan and Benny the Jet. Wheels on Meals. And yeah, I mean, the dubbing that they did, because they refused to read a movie. The dubbing on it was bad, but the fight scenes in that, all of them, even the secondary ones, they're still leaps and bounds better than what we see here today in 2020.
No, I agree.
How'd you transition to American film?
Quite easy. When the Hong Kong movies became really popular worldwide, so I was, I lived in Hong Kong 3 years. And then I wanted to come back home because I missed home. And as soon as my contract is up with Golden Harvest, they said, hey, you know, we want to shoot Chen O'Brien 1 and 2 in Utah. Would you want to do that? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So then after that, I decided just to stay there. And at that time, my foreign movies were really popular. So right away, I got contacted to do martial law. So then from that point on, I was just getting movies to do, like, in the States, or, some of them were foreign. But that's what, took me out of Hong Kong.
And I'm going to assume you liked the American films a little better because you weren't actually getting hit as hard.
No, actually, it's funny. I like the Hong Kong films better because I remember when I was doing China O'Brien, I was hitting the stuntmen really hard, and they're like, "You don't have to hit that hard." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry," because I was so used to Corey Yuen saying harder, 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 right? And they're like, "No, you don't even have to hit. We'll just." I was like, "Oh," so it was a little readjustment for me, is like not to fight so hard. But as far as script goes, it was easier because I had a script. When we were in Hong Kong, we never had a script, so we never knew what we were doing until that day we got there. And then they shot with no sound, so it didn't matter what you were saying. They would just say something similar to this. And so it was easier, like, listening to someone and understanding what they were saying. Because even, like, I think in Righting Wrongs, there's a scene where I put my badge down on the desk and I just got fired, and I walk out. Well, they said, just go in and put your badge down on the desk. And I was like, why? And they go, oh, don't worry about it. Just go in and put it down. And I did, and I walked out. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, geez, that would have helped to know I was getting fired. My attitude might have been a little different. And then when I was shooting, Magic Crystal, the director says, look up at the ceiling. What am I looking at the ceiling for? He goes, yeah, just look up there for this shot. So I'm okay. So I'm looking at the ceiling, and there's like holes in movie. It's like an alien invasion, and I'm looking at the aliens up above, and I was like, that might have helped a bit if you told me that information. So as far as that goes, I liked it better because I knew what was going on. But the fighting, I still to this day think nobody can compare it to, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but any of the films that I did outside of Hong Kong did not, compare to the choreography that they did there. It was just brilliant. And I think it just takes a long time. Like in Yes, Madam, just the ending fight scene was 1 month, so takes a lot of time. When we were shooting the American films, we would shoot the whole movie in less than a month, never mind just the ending fight scene.
When you did China O'Brien, did you ask for Richard Norton to be brought in for that?
I think they already. I totally would have asked for him, but I think that he worked with me on Shanghai Express. So they already knew him and they already liked him. So I think that's how that went. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to guess that. That they picked him because, we worked on Shanghai Express.
I told him how jealous I was, and I was like, every time I had to watch a Cynthia Rothrock movie, I said, here's this blonde-haired Australia guy always with her again. So
yeah, we were a good team because people knew that if it was him and I in the film, it was going to sell and make money. So that's why we've done a lot of films together. Because they knew it was a good combination.
I love China O'Brien. I thought it was a great movie. The only thing I didn't like, and I don't know why the studio did it, maybe you can answer this age-old question I've had. Some of the fight scenes with you, they sped up, but they were sped up kind of weird. Why did they do that? Do you have any idea?
No, I know in Hong Kong, all just their style, and I think they were just, having different, the choreographer was different, so it might have been, came a little different than in Hong Kong, because I know they had half of an American team and half of a Hong Kong team, and they had I think they only had 2 Hong Kong stuntmen, to come, but they didn't have anything to do with editing or the shooting. I think it was Robert Klaus that, was doing it. So,
because the scene where you go in, where the bad guys want to steal the ballots at the school from where they're voting for you, and you have the big fight, it's like all at once. There's like parts of the fight that go like zipped up, like when you throw a kick or something, it'd be sped up super fast, then it would go back to normal. And I always kind of wondered. I was like, I wonder why they're speeding her up here. It's like the moves are fantastic. I don't. Yeah, get it.
I don't know. I guess that was just the style, because that's just the Hong Kong style, is to speed it up.
Did you ever back then because that was early 90s. Did you ever think about maybe trying to get into like syndicated like television, like your own show where you fight crime with martial arts or anything like that? Because that was like really big back then.
Yeah, I did do Irresistible Force, and that was supposed to be a TV series.
Okay.
For CBS, and it was at a really, really bad time because that's when in America they were seeing violence on TV as you see violence, it promotes violence, and when we were shooting Irresistible Force, Kevin Hooks was the director, and he would get notes from the CBS saying no kicks to the head, no blood, and he's going, "What? Are you kidding me? That's what this girl does is kick to the head, and you're telling me not to do it." So he kind of ignored it, and he just did what he wanted to, and he's like, you know what? They're going to love it, and they're not going to care. Well, they did care, and that's why Irresistible Force kind of got shoved, and it didn't go as a TV series because of the fact that the timing was so bad that they were thinking, oh, if you're fighting, you're promoting violence, and it was a shame because that would have been a great TV series, with Stacy Keach, just that's why it got shelved, because they thought it was, violent, and like you look at what's going on today, it's like that's like nothing.
My son's 10, and I'll show him a movie from that had a hard R rating back in the 80s, and it's like, well, this is what's on primetime television nowadays, even
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know Lorenzo Lamas had done a handful of action movies, and then Renegade was such a hit for him. Then he did other ones. It was like, well, geez, we have Renegade, we have Viper, we have VIP. It was like, I wonder why, because you were on an episode of Xena, I recall.
Yeah, Hercules.
Hercules, okay.
Right, but that was much after. That was almost when it started that, no, if you're shooting a fight scene, that doesn't promote violence. So, there was a different attitude then at that time.
Have you ever thought about trying to get like a cable show or anything today?
You know what? I would love to do one. I just technically, I don't think I've ever had really the right team, the right manager that goes out and works and does stuff. And I think I just love life, and I'm happy with what I'm doing no matter what I'm doing. So I don't focus 100% on, I got to get a job. I focus on, I'd love to work. If someone wants me, and I focus a little too much on travel, I think if I was more focused on that's all I want from my life. But, I still would love that. I would love to do TV series, and gosh, there's so many channels on and so much action, but.
I see you as a bounty hunter.
Oh, well, yeah, it could be anything.
Or it could even be like a new version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, that's what I see. But,
I had a contract with Sylvester Stallone. We were supposed to shoot a movie. I forget what it was called. I think it was called what was it called? I forget. I don't remember what it was called. But it was a series of books, where we were cop partners, and William Friedkin was supposed to direct it, and everything was set to go. I got paid for it, even more money than I've ever made on a movie. And it didn't go because Sylvester Stallone didn't like the script. The guys that wrote RoboCop wrote it, and I ended up getting paying, and it never went. So I had a close call, like doing the TV series with Stacy Keach, and then I had a close call doing an A movie, with Sylvester Stallone, but, for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So I don't know. I'm still hoping that the time will come to do that.
To me, you are an A-list actor. So, if that means anything at all. You did, if you don't mind me asking, you did Fast Getaway 1 and 2 with Corey Haim back in the night.
Yes.
What was he like on set?
Well, he was like 18 years old. And he was like, when he worked, but he was also like a kid. He liked to joke around and have fun, and like, I remember like this one scene we were doing, I had to stomp on his chest with heels. And I told him to put a pad on, and he didn't want to put a pad on. And I was like, no, put a pad on, because even if I just tap you with this little spiky heel, it's still going to hurt. He's like, no, I can take it. So I did it, and everything was fine. And then the next day, the woman, assistant producer, come over to me and says, oh, my God, what did you do to him? You punctured his lung. And I was
my God.
I was like, what? I punctured his lung. And they go, yeah, we had to take him to the hospital. And I'm like going, oh, my God, I didn't hit him that hard. And then I see him, and he's dancing, and he's got his, like, you know, at that time it was a boom box. And he's like, oh, no, I just didn't want to work today. I was going, oh, no, all of a sudden I punctured your lung. You know, so he was kind of, you know, kind of funny at that. But when it came, like, to shooting, he was very, very, very wise for his age.
Did you watch the documentary about him a couple weeks ago?
No, I didn't.
The one that Corey Feldman made? I'm sure you've heard about it by now.
No, actually, I haven't even heard about it. Where did you see it? On Netflix or something?
No, you had to pay Corey Feldman like $20 to stream it, which I think is a little shady anyway when you make a documentary about Hollywood pedophilia and your friend and you charge for it. But what came to light was that they said that Charlie Sheen raped Corey Haim when he was 13 years old.
Oh, holy smokes.
I don't know if that's true or not. The only thing I know is true is Charlie Sheen's probably going to sue for a lot of money. Wow. No, I didn't even hear about it or know about it. So. Yeah, they said when they were doing that film Lucas, he had sex with him behind a trailer or something. They actually said it was Charlie Sheen and everything. It was like, yeah, Charlie Sheen will probably sue you, and he has every right to, because you're speaking on behalf of someone who's passed away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can't, like, prove it. Wow.
Yeah, you shouldn't drop names.
Yeah. Well, yikes.
And then, you know, I had seen you in all these films, you know, No Retreat, No Surrender, Sworn to Justice, out of the Martial Law 1 and 2. Do you have a favorite of any of your American films?
I think of my American films, I like Sworn to Justice the best. Sworn to Justice, I also like The Martial Art Kid. Those two. I
love The Martial Art Kid. I won't lie. I really like that film. I liked watching it with my son, too.
Yeah. I'd say those two are my favorites.
My favorite of your American films is China O'Brien holds a real special spot in my heart for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just because it was just...
Well, you know, I have a director right now he's trying really, really hard to find out who owns the rights to China O'Brien, because we want to do China O'Brien later, you know, and what's happened after all these years, and here she is. And back then, you know, that acting, all of our acting was a little bit sketchy there, because we were shooting China O'Brien 1 and 2 at the Robert Klaus would go, okay, let's do the scene in part 2 in now. And we're like, well, we didn't even look at the lines yet. We didn't even read the script yet for part 2. And they go, it doesn't matter, just do it. And so, at being such a novice at acting, it was very hard for us to do it. And I just remember all I kept doing is thinking of my lines, because I didn't get to study them because we never knew what we were going to shoot. He would just like go, oh, hey, here's a parade. Let's just hop in there and pretend you're China O'Brien for sure. I mean, it was really, really like funny, you know. And I was like, oh, I guess that's just how you shoot movies, you know, because they're just coming from Hong Kong. So when we look at the acting, or I look at it going, geez, I could do so much better now.
Well, if you do film it and you need a henchman, I will fly out on my own dime to be a part of it.
Well, absolutely. If anybody knows who owns the rights, let me know, because we want to redo it.
I think
redo it, not do the same one, but just like, you know, years later, because that little film was so popular worldwide, like, you know.
Oh, it played on HBO, Cinemax, Showtime. It was on 24 hours a day if you wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
And I watched it 24 hours a day.
I went to England, and it was number 2 under Rain Man. And when I was introduced to the guy that distributed it in England, I was introduced like, here's the woman that made you rich, and I was like, oh, I didn't get rich on that, but I'm glad you did.
Now, you did all those films, and then I didn't see you for a long time, and then all at once you popped back up on the. Did you retire from movies for a while?
I never retired. I had a baby.
Oh, well, that's the same as retirement.
I had my daughter, and I did a movie with Don Wilson, Redemption, which I had a small part. I got killed in the beginning, and my daughter was just born at that time. And then a lot of the movies I was getting was to shoot out of the country, and I just had this little baby, and I like, no way, I'm not leaving her, and I'm not taking her to like Thailand, and so I just said, I just want to be mom for a while. And then when she was 3, I did Outside the Law, and that was in Puerto Rico, and my mom came with me. And then when she was in school, it was hard to pull her out. I couldn't take her out, so I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to leave her for any periods of time. So I kind of dropped out of that a little bit, for those years. And then when she became a teenager, and she was like, oh, Mom, and then her dad and I got divorced, and she's like, I want to hang with my friends. I don't want to hang with Mom. I was like, ooh, well, I got to go back to work.
Yeah,
no. So that's the period why, you didn't see me, because I was enjoying being mom.
Now, you made all those films with Jalal Merhai. And,
the Tiger Claws.
And, and I liked him. And when I interviewed Matthias Hues, he's, because I always noticed that it was a lot of the same people were in those films. And he said just, what a great time that was. Was doing films like that with kind of like that same core group of people. Was it just almost like hanging out with your friends when you were making those films?
Absolutely, yeah. It was all of us, and I have to say, and martial art kid was like that, because all my friends were in it. It was like just being a big family, shooting, which makes it really fun, when you know people. You can't ask for anything better than that. And then from both those movies, we've all remained close friends, all of us, because we worked together so much, as compared to just doing a scene with someone and then, you don't see them for 30 years. You're like, you don't really remember, but when you keep working with the same person, you start developing really close friendships.
Tiger Claws is a favorite of mine because, it's got Bolo in it. How intimidating is Bolo in real life?
I wasn't intimidated. I was excited to fight him, because here I am doing an American movie, right? Or it was Canadian, whatever, because we shot it in Canada. And I thought, I'm fighting a Hong Kong guy, and he's really big and he's really strong, and I could fight him really hard because he knows the Hong Kong accent. Well, I was surprised, because he didn't want to fight strong and hard. No, he didn't actually want me to touch him. I got out and like, oh no, right? And so I was surprised. I thought, he was going to be like, the Hong Kong stunt team, that I fight there. But so it wasn't intimidating. It was fun working with him. But I would say I just expected him to be really, really tough and hard to fight with me, and it wasn't.
Is he bigger in person or on film?
Oh no, he's a big man. He's big in person as well. Yep.
He has I lift weights, and I've always how did that guy get his chest to go from his throat to his stomach?
Well, that's how he became famous. But one of the first, Chinese guys that were so big and strong and muscular, we didn't see it that much.
Now, I like that you were in Tiger Claw, but the one thing I didn't get, now, you actually know Eagle Claw, correct?
Yes, I studied Eagle Claw.
So when Talons of the Eagle was made, with Jalal Merhai, Billy Blanks, why the hell were you not in it if you actually knew the style?
Because at that time my price was much higher. It soared up after a while, and so I think I was a little bit overpriced at that time for what Jalal's budget was.
Gotcha. And he doesn't do phone interviews, but he said I could email him questions, which I did. And I believe I did ask that too. Why the hell didn't you cast Miss Rothrock in Towns of the Eagle? What's going on here? But,
yeah, I would assume that's why.
Well, it's funny because like I said, how you see the same people and forgive me, I don't know the actor's name. I can't remember it. When you, I think it's Ken something, when you did Sworn to Justice, the bad guy in it. And I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my God, who is that? And then that was the kid from the Billy Blanks movie Showdown. It was like, oh my God, all these people really do the same films at one point or another.
Well, you know what happens, especially back then, sometimes you'd get people that were like prima donnas, or they didn't want to go and promote the film, or they wanted more money, or, were a little difficult to work with. So when directors worked with people that were really nice and uplifting and everybody loved working with them, you went in, knew your job, did it right, they would tend to hire the same kind of people because they knew that everything would go smoother and it's gonna be a good film. Did you ever work with Billy Blanks in a film? I can't place the two together. I think Billy Blanks was in a China O'Brien too. I think he came in at the end of it. Yeah, there's a fight scene. He's in it. Okay. Yeah, and that's the only time I worked with him. Yeah, he was in China O'Brien too. Because like I say, it was always you never worked with, and I know he's not a martial artist, but he seemed to pop up in a lot of, I know Don the Dragon worked with him, Roddy Piper. Did you ever work with him? No, never have. He was another one I'd seen pop up. There's only a few people that I've never seen you in a film with, and they're kind of, I don't know, not important by any means, but I just always thought I'd ask. I'm a huge fan of Sonny Chiba and Shokasuke. I always kind of like the violent style of martial arts. Yeah, I think they were a little before my time. Oh, and Chiba was before my time. Yeah. So I don't even remember them shooting movies when I was shooting movies, No, I liked your films. I was glad that you came back. What and I had told the same thing I told Don the Dragon. I'll tell you, it was so nice because I like my R-rated action movies. My son likes his R-rated action movies, but now that I'm a dad, it was really nice to kind of watch the martial arts kid. More of a wholesome kind of film. And you guys were amazing together. Your chemistry is so great. Oh, yeah, that was great. We love that. And then James said, I want to do a family martial art film. And Don was like, no, you can't. You got to have action and bad and this and this. And he goes, no, I want to do a kid one. And I was so for it because I was a mom then, and I was like, yeah, I want to do a kid film. I want to play a mom. I am a mom, Before I ask you one thing about that, there's one thing I've heard all my life. That you, and I believe it, were the inspiration for the Sonya Blade character in Mortal Kombat. Is that true? Oh, yeah. If you look on Wikipedia, it says I was Sonya Blade, and people still think to this day I was Sonya Blade. But again, the promoter didn't want to pay me. See, this is where it comes in, right? Because they want to pay hardly anything. And, I was at the peak of my height, and I had an AS. So instead of paying me a lot of money, they created a character in my likeness. And everybody thought it was me, but it wasn't. So, so it was a little sneaky thing. Why the hell didn't you play Sonya Blade in the movie? Yeah, same reason. Okay. I saw that movie. You're probably better off that you weren't in it. So. Yeah. Although Robin, Robin Shu, he was awesome in it. Can't say that he wasn't. Oh, yeah, he just, I'm actually working on a movie now. Where he's a stunt coordinator, like he's doing all the action. Have you had a chance yet to work with Scott Adkins? No, I haven't, but I would love to. It's funny, he sent me a little video saying thank you, that I was his inspiration, and we met a long time ago in England, and I signed a picture. He wasn't doing movies, and he sent me the picture. It said, hope to see you in the movie. We'll see you in the movie someday or something like that. So I know he's like, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm like, I'm a big fan of yours. So I would hopefully, you never know. I would love to. I would love to.
He's my son's hero, and it was like,
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see you and him fight. That would be awesome.
Yeah, me too.
My son's also a huge Mark Dacascos fan.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I worked with Mark. He directed Showdown in Manila.
I liked a lot of his films. I'd like to see you two fight too.
Yeah, yeah. He was very professional, he's excellent in martial arts. And I remember we were doing a Q&A at the Comic-Con, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm too old." He's saying he's too old. He can't do all this. It's like I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You're better now than you were then."
Hey, he was great in John Wick 3.
Oh, he was amazing. His martial arts is phenomenal still.
Now, will you be in John Wick 4?
I would love to, but again, they're not knocking on my door, and I'm not out there knocking on theirs. So
I would knock on your door. I would cast you in the film.
See, if you were the producer, then you would have me in the film, and then I'd be in it.
Well, Mr. Wilson, I hate to say Don the Dragon because I don't know him. He told me I had asked him about the often rumored B-Team Expendables film. And when he told me about it, I was like, we got to get the Kickstarter going so I can give money and help raise the money on social media to make this.
Well, you know what, though? It was such a... The Expendables came out. We were like, we should do the B-Team. And then his brother-in-law was going to do it. And I don't know what happened. They never did it. But now it's like, I mean, it still could be good if you can't call it that. But, I guess that's kind of what, it was like when he did the Expendables, I was like, how come I'm not in that? I'm like the woman. I'm the woman of that era. Why am I not in that, And I had a contract with them to do it. So he knew me. But I'm like, geez, right? Yeah. So it would be great because, if you look at it like Don, me, Olivier Gruner, Richard Norton, all of us still can fight really good and we still look good. And I think it would be such an inspiration for people, to see, hey, look at people. Don't have to be like a young teenager, they could be, like a little bit older and still kick butt better than anybody else, I think it would be awesome.
I would love to help make it happen.
I know, right? You should make a script and just do it because nobody has really done it. Nobody has really done it with, the top people from that time. You get Daniel Bernhardt, Gary Daniels, Oh my gosh, it would be amazing. Matthias Hughes, I
got to say, he spoke highly of you too. That is one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, I have a funny story. When Matthias and I were working on our film, we became friends, and I was walking down the street in Hollywood, right? And he had these really little short shorts on, and he had long hair, and he looked like this god. And here I'm walking down, and people would be staring, and I'm like, oh, I think they're staring at you.
He was always the bad guy, though. I always felt bad for him. I mean, poor guy was always the bad guy at I'd make him a good guy.
Yeah.
As mean in that as he looks, he's so damn nice. It's like
he's a sweetheart.
Hero one time.
He's like a big teddy bear.
Just and I've talked to a good handful of all you martial artists from that era. You're all just great people. You have good morals, good messages for the kids, even the adults. It's just an honor to talk to people like all of you guys. Like I said, I was so nervous. You were the one I was most nervous to talk to. And you guys are just, to this day, you guys are just so amazing, skill level, everything.
Thank you.
Now, the martial arts kid. Now I have to ask, of course, and I ask this question to every martial artist, the Karate Kid. Mm-hmm. Would Daniel LaRusso have won that tournament in real life?
No.
That's what I've always said, and that's what everybody says.
Yeah, because it's true. No. But see, it's not real life. He wasn't really a martial artist, and it's movies. I mean, look at now. Would so and so be the superhero in real life? No, it's movie magic.
Have you ever thought about getting into like the Marvel movies or anything? Would that be something that would appeal to you, or is that really not your thing?
Absolutely. I thought about getting into everything. Every time I see something, going, oh, I could do that. I should be in that. I should have done La Femme Nikita. That should have been me.
That's a pretty good film. Now,
Yeah, I like that. When I first saw that one, I was like, oh, God, I would have loved to play that part.
I like the French one, the French one, the original, better than the Bridget Fonda one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I like the foreign films. I would have liked to have seen you in, you'd have been good in that. I'd like to see you in a Tarantino movie. As weird as that probably sounds, I'd love to see you in a Quentin Tarantino
So
film.
would I, and I was friends with David Carradine, and when he was shooting Kill Bill, I said, because Quentin Tarantino knows who I am because he used to work in video stores, right? Mm-hmm. And all my videos were popular, and I said to get me in Kill Bill, and he said, oh, I talked to Quentin, and Quentin said, you should never have left Hong Kong, that you were too overexposed, and that's why I didn't use you. And I was like, what? I should never have left Hong Kong. And that's what David told me. I don't know if that was true or not, or if David just said that, but yeah, that's what he said, that Quentin said. And I've never run into him. I would have loved to. I'd love to run into him to see, what he would say. But yeah,
because you would have been great in that.
Yeah,
like especially absolutely. like the Daryl Hannah part. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, well, it's kind of who you know, really. It's who you know, and if you're friends with someone like that that's in that position to do that, they're going to use you.
Where's when are we going to see the martial arts kid 2?
Yeah, I'm hoping we will too. I keep asking James that, but he's got other things he's working on as well, and we have half the money for it, so he has to get the other half. But yeah, I know. I keep asking that same question too, along with everybody else.
I can't thank you enough. This was a great honor.
Well, thank you. And tell your wife I said hi.
I will. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.